Hi, so let's do a little bit of self-massage. This video is going to focus on self-massage for the face. There'll be a few different techniques just to help to try to alleviate any tension that's been created from maybe clenching or grinding your teeth, or maybe a little bit of fascial tension from the neck and shoulders that's creeped up into the face as well. This routine can be done really any time of day. Might be kind of nice to do before bed to help alleviate some tension, or like I said, any time of the day is great. Personally, I like to do this when my face isn't too moisturized, so I get a good grip on the skin. If the skin's too oily, you'll tend to slip or glide too quickly over top. If you find that your face is really sensitive to some of this fascia work we're going to be doing on it, definitely add a little bit of oil or moisturizer. I find that working with oil glides a little bit better. If all you have at home is some sort of lotion, but you're needing that good glide, just taking some olive oil or whatever cooking oil you have in the kitchen is just fine. And conversely, if you need a little bit more tackiness on the skin, I do find that sometimes just over-the-counter moisturizers you buy from the store can help give you a little bit more tackiness or stickiness to the skin if you're needing that extra bit of grip. If you want to make this a full spa day for yourself after, adding some essential oils at the end to help with any skin stuff you have going on, whatever you have in your little toolkit of essential oils is really nice. If you're looking for specific immune boosting ones, talk to your local essential oil person. I'm sure they'll have lots of great ideas for you. Just be careful with the essential oils. Make sure you're adding it to a carrier oil so that you're not burning the skin, because sometimes essential oils can be quite harsh, especially in and around the face and eyes, lips, nose, that sort of stuff. So the main thing we're looking at doing here is trying to open up a lot of the fascia or the connective tissue in and around the face. So the connective tissue kind of looks like this web underneath the skin. So oftentimes when it gets overused, that webbing starts to get quite sticky and doesn't have a lot of glide and slide to it, especially if you're like me and you've been doing a lot of coffee at home. That can also lead to a drying of the connective tissue and fascia. So when we work on doing something like skin rolling, we're working on loosening up these fibers so that they can glide and slide on their own and have their own movement coming back to the tissue, bring back suppleness. Another thing you might start to notice is as you work on the skin, you might start to see it get a little bit pink in color. The pinkness is just a flushing in of blood to the site. That's totally normal, but just make sure that as you're working through the tissue, especially underneath the eyes, we're not wanting to do too much pressure, especially underneath the eyes. The capillaries or the teeny little blood vessels in that area are quite small and quite delicate, so there is a possibility to bruise down there. So just keeping things nice and light in that area will help avoid any bruising. If you have facial cups at home, doing little facial cups, plucking at the tissue here is also a really nice way to get some fluidity back to the tissue of the face, open up the fascia. If all you have are cups that you'd normally put on your arm, legs, that sort of thing, I'd highly recommend that you not use those on your face. They will bruise the tissue and they're quite intense. Unless you've specifically talked to someone about using them on your face, or you're totally okay with having a face full of bruises, probably not the best idea, but you do what's best for you. So let's get into some self-massage on the face. So let's start with the fascia work for in and around the cheeks and the neck. So my favorite technique in this area is skin rolling. So it kind of sounds exactly like what it is. We're trying to roll the skin using our fingers. So we kind of come into like a sandwich type grip on the face. grab that, and then we use the fingers to walk the thumbs up. So it'll be the same in the neck. The fingers are always going to be the drivers, and the thumbs are the ones that are kind of trying to roll that out. So again, the whole purpose of this is we're trying to get the different layers to move along in a line. If they're sticky or bound, you're going to get to a point where it feels like there's not a lot of give, where it'll feel bound. So when we get to those areas, just slow it down, see if you can't even oscillate the tissue or give it a little bit of back and forth like this, or even back and forth like this, which will help to loosen that tissue up and hopefully roll through it a few more times. So let's start with the face. So I find this area here to be quite sticky for me. It's probably going to be pretty sticky for you. So what we have here is the masseter muscle. So that's a pretty main muscle for talking, chewing, moving the mouth in this area. So especially if you've been grinding or clenching your teeth, this is a really great area to work on for you. You can do it both sides at one time if you want. I find if you get to a really tricky part, having both hands there is helpful to really work through a sticky spot. So let's get into it. Because the fingers are the drivers, it's easiest to start from the bottom and go up. So we'll just get a good pinch on the skin here. So we've got a nice chunk like that, and you're probably going to notice that the hand closer to my ear is going to move a lot slower as things move up. If you don't notice that, I feel that. So everything moves up nice and smooth. Other thing to keep in mind is if you do have really long fingernails or fake nails on, this probably won't feel super great. So just make sure that the thumbnail or fingernails themselves, just try to have them turned up or maybe trim them, just because you don't want to leave yourself with scratches on the skin. Yeah. So let's see if I can't pull my fingers away to show that a little bit better. So you can see there's that rippling of the tissue there. So that's a really good way to see how that area is quite sticky for me. So again, we just roll through that, and everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to have their spot that's a little bit stickier. Just work on it at your own pace. Just coming up, moving through that area several times until you feel like you've worked through it enough. Really important when you're working through the tissue that once you hit a threshold where it becomes painful, back off a little bit. Just try to find that line where it feels like it's releasing something or giving you some sort of benefit. I wouldn't suggest doing this for hours and hours on end unless you have something very specific that you're trying to work through, like scar tissue or some pretty heavy-duty adherences. If you're not sure about where your skin is at, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about it on more of a personal level. So yeah, working through the whole cheek area and that skin rolling is a really great way to do some self-massage on the face. Self-massage through the neck feels really great. Same kind of idea. The thumb is coming along for the ride, the fingers are the driver. So again, you want to start with the thumb as far back as possible. I like to come to the center because it feels weird to come this way. Personally, you're going to find whatever works best for you. So I get a good pinch on the tissue there and then pull it along. So you'll notice it's kind of hard to get the fingers to walk unless you're going from the center out. I just don't like that on my throat as much. So you might find what you're doing is you're pinching and rolling, pinching and rolling, pinching and rolling. And again, you swipe through that a few times. You're probably going to get to a spot that feels a little bit stickier than others. The nice thing about when you're doing massages like this is after the first few swipes through, you start to find a rhythm. Once you find that rhythm and you kind of settle in, it almost becomes like not quite a meditation, but just sort of soothing to the body. The body really likes rhythmic motions that you put it through. So just settling in, being with the breath, feeling what's happening in the tissue is a really nice way to get through this, or to experience it, I guess is a better way of putting it. So once you've done all the skin rolling through the neck, one of the major muscles here, especially if you've been spending a lot of time like this, texting on the phone, your head forward looking at your computer screen, this muscle here, the SCM, its attachment is just up on the mastoid back here, attaches onto the sternum here, and the clavicle back here. So a really great way to get that muscle is using the opposite hand and just coming along, pinching between the two and rolling them back and forth. Some of you, this muscle is going to be incredibly uncomfortable. Again, only do what you're most comfortable with. There's no need to annihilate this tissue, especially when you don't know what you're feeling for. We're just coming in to give your body a little bit of a break, to remind you of what's going on by means of feeling the tissue or experiencing it. So getting into this, if it's super duper tight, you're gonna find that putting it on the stretch, you're not gonna be able to grab it, or at least not easily, if it's problematic. So what I like to do is to think about those two areas coming together to shorten it. Let's see if I can't get that light a little bit better. So you find that grip. This is the hard part about self-massage. It's pretty hard to relax into it. So you find that pinch grip, find the good spot. You can either wiggle it back and forth like this. Again, you can wiggle it back and forth like this. You can oscillate it. You can do a lot of different things. Find your comfort zone. You'll know intuitively what feels good. Again, if you have questions, feel free to just reach out, ask me. So finding your way along. There's going to be some spots on here that'll feel like a trigger point. They might refer into the eyeball. They might refer to the back of the head. That's normal. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, back off a little bit. Find your way all the way through that SCM. I'm only showing you one side. Really important for you to do both sides. If you get to a side where you feel like you need to spend a little bit more attention, time, just go ahead, do what you need to do. So yeah, we've opened up the fascia in this area. You might find that the face gets quite hot. You can do a cool compress with some cold cloths, or again, if you've got some peppermint oil, not too much close to the eyes, but peppermint through the neck area to help cool things down. Again, the peppermint should be definitely going in a carrier oil because it's quite strong. If you want, you can start to open up the lymph right underneath the collarbones, pulling them away. You can work on the sternum, and you can even get the ribs in here. So pulling, it's almost like your fingertips are trying to find the grooves of the ribs here, pulling them from side to side, helping to open up the lymphatic tracts underneath the rib cage here. So we've come cheek, neck, chest. Nice way to double back, come in through the sinuses. So there's sinus cavities all through here. Again, be careful underneath the eyes. We don't want to leave too much bruising. So I find it helpful to sort of open things up a little bit, whether you're doing 3, 2, 1 finger on and above the eyebrows, pulling up and off to the side. Again, this comes into a really rhythmic pattern here. This one can be done seated. Also feels pretty nice to be lying down, especially right before bed, coming through this pattern. If you find that your sinuses have been really full lately, we are coming into allergy season. You can find with your thumbs here, right in the head of the eyebrow, just finding that lip under here. There should be a little bit of a divot in through the bone tissue here. Again, if they're quite full, you'll start to feel them pretty quickly. They can be a little bit tender. If they're not full, you can have a little bit more pressure, but again, it's pretty light. So pressure upwards and then pull them off to the side. Pressure upwards, pull them off to the side. So it's kind of like you're following the bottom part of the eyebrow here, pulling and then off to the side. I find afterwards it's nice to come into the temples, give them a little bit of a rub like this. And it's kind of nice to come to the sides of the jaw, open that up. You can double back to the bottom sinus. So again, just like above, there's a little divot right about here. It's going to be different on everyone. So just gently let your fingers pull across the bone tissue right underneath the eye. If that bothers you and makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to do this by any means. These are just suggestions. So find that little divot, a little bit of pressure downwards, and start to pull the fingertips off to the side. A little bit of pressure down, pull them off to the side. You can do that a few times, and then you can come with more of a general pulling off to the side of the face a few times. All of this face massage stuff looks ridiculous, so if you want to have a good chuckle, I'll do this in the mirror. Yeah, what else is there? You can pull off through the center of the forehead as well. There's tissue up here that likes to have a little bit of that work done as well. I've come through here, here. What else? Oh yeah, ears. So you'll find right about here is where the jawbone meets the rest of the skull. So this area can be quite tender if you have a lot of jaw problems. So I find coming in around here, little circles all the way around. And then those little circles can start to travel all the way around the ear and around a few different times if you'd like. Yeah, taking some time to do little circles like this, especially if you're having a shower with the shampoo. This is a great way to get in through the back of the head. It's almost like you have little fingertip claws and you're just pulling from side to side. If you've got a little tennis ball or a lacrosse ball coming up to the back of the head, right just above the hairline, there's these harder parts of the skull. You can find two balls to sit here and roll them just on a wall behind you. That's also a really nice way to get into the suboccipits. Maybe I'll do a video on that one later. So yeah, I hope that gives you a little troubleshooting for face massage, and yeah, hope you have a really great rest of your day. Bye.